56 millimeters, something along those lines. These shims, they fit, they're just tight, so we're just putting them in there for the, you gotta figure that when you cut one of these with a slitting saw, they spring close, so just putting them in there to add a little bit of that spring back to it, I guess you could say. Nothing rocket science. And yes, I usually don't take my tools out of my wrenches out of the thing until I know I got the right size. So it's a pain in the ass around there. I'd like to just bring my own toolbox in, but technically I ain't even a student anymore, so ain't gonna happen. Then we'll carry it over the old Sharp Bridgeport knockoff, I guess you could call it. I just cut these shims on the press brake. Alright. Again, let's cut these little pieces on there too. Give me something for my tool to be able to drop out the bottom without having to worry about the table or anything. And this 1-2-3 block with a bolt in it, and that's going to act as a leveling jack, front to back. You know, because you could sit this down, you could set it down in there, and you could pick up the hole with the indicator and all that good stuff, but that doesn't mean that, you know, just because you can find the center of the hole wherever you drop that indicator in doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be boring a concentric hole. So you know, and if it's out, you know, if it's out 25 thousandths in an inch, you know, that means it's going to be out 25 thousandths for every inch. So you compound that all the way across that fork, you know, and if it's a 3-foot fork, you know, that's a lot of damn inches to be adding up. You know, by the time you get to the end of that fork, it's kicked so far out, it's ridiculous. And you're using these clamps, always remember the back's got to be just a cunt hair higher than the front. I usually lean down in there and look at the gap on the steps where they meet. You know, there should be a gap where it's touching at the bottom and more spread at the top, and then you know that it's leaning. But you don't want it to be leaning too much. You know, just barely higher on one end than the other. That clamp there is going to have to go. You know, it was a good idea when we started, but we couldn't get the boring head down deep enough. Which you'll see later in the video. Which was fine. And 2 clamps was plenty enough to hold it for what we had going on there. And this is basically the same thing that we done on the other side. Just a toe clamp right out there on that end. Ideally there was 3 of them on it, but 2 is plenty. You just ain't gonna be hogging on. I think it was only taking 30 thousandths a pass or something along those lines. all the trimming on this, I didn't realize that that shaft was right in the way of everything I was recording. Using the old stare indicator. Now normally what I do is I'll get the tip of that thing as close to it as I can get it. Open it up where it's roughly the size I need it to be, and then I just eyeball it in to where it looks like it's concentric with the spindle, and then I'll drop the damn thing down in there and actually start doing my indicating. Make sure you got the mill in neutral. Make it a lot easier to spin that spindle around. What I'm doing here is I'm sweeping the back wall, which is where that jack comes in handy. Sweep it from top to bottom, and then adjust, sweep it, adjust, sweep it, adjust. You can do that on both axes, the back wall and the side wall. And then after you've swept the back wall and you swept the side wall, then you can you re-pick up the hole, because once you're moving it, it's gonna shift where the hole was at, essentially. So I'm sure there's a math equation that tell you exactly how much your hole shifted from center with 5/1000ths adjustment, 2-inch length, but I'm not positive. I'm positive there's an equation, but I'm not positive what exactly that equation might be. Sure, I got a book that'll tell you if I ever needed to know, though. And that's the key, right? You gotta know everything. Just gotta know where to find everything. Just gotta know when you don't know. And again, you'll notice I always tap it with my finger, zero it and tap it. Seems to me that the indicator needle will settle if you give it a little tap. I'm certainly no authority figure on indicating, but whatever. Listen to it or don't. As I always told you, you also, you zero on one side and indicate on the other. So if I'm using the right hand side as my zero, then I'm going to zero it on the right hand side each time, and then sweep back to the left hand side, sweep back to the right hand side, adjust it. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to zero on one side, sweep to the other side, make an adjustment, try and zero it, sweep back to the side you started on. You just wind up chasing your tail. Pick a side and stick with it. this is after it's already, the back wall was swept, so I'm just trying to pick up. Plus it's a different day, and in theory everything should be where you left it, but all it takes is some jackass to bump a handle or something and screw the pooch on you. So fancy here, just loading the tool. Watch some tool tips when you're sticking them in and out, especially if you don't have a whole lot of clearance to load them. If you never used a boring head, you got them three slots on the side, and you've got the holes on the bottom. One's going to be dead center, and one's going to be, an inch off, at least on this one. And you've got an adjustment on the back side, which is, goes a 1,000 increment ticks. And you got 3 set screws on the side which lock the gibs, which you'll be able to see, right there. That's going to lock the gib that's in there. So essentially I just drop it into the hole, move the damn thing over until it's just touching, spin it all the way around, make sure that it's just touching all the way around. If you pick a hole up and then you drop your boring head down in there or whatever tool it is, and you spin it around the hole that you're supposed to be in the center of, and it's rubbing on one side but not the other, buddy, you ain't in the center of it. So you might want to retry. And this is a metric hole, and that's not a metric boring bar. So, you got to keep in mind your conversions. 25.4 and .03937. Mr. Roger Bowling putting that crap on the blackboard from the first day we started class. Those were 2 numbers that he wanted us to remember, so I don't know how many other guys remembered it, but and again, you ain't gonna memorize everything. Just be aware that there's a conversion number, have it in your little notebook, whatever it is, and when you need it, go use it, There's no reason to kill yourself because you don't remember how to do every little thing, I can work out the trigonometry, but I still keep my books because I don't have to do it that often, right? There's by and large a calculator that's gonna do all that math for you with a pretty simple plug and play type of deal. I guess it's almost like a macro. Plug the numbers in and it's going to spit out an answer. But you just have to be aware of where to get that information from, and you have to be able to work the problem. Even if that means, like I do, work the problem out on a piece of paper. Have you a sample problem that you've worked out personally, that you know the answer to, That way, when it comes time for you to work out a problem, you're not playing guessing games with the problem you're trying to work. Work out the problem that you already have that's already worked out. Make sure you get the same exact number. And if you get the same number, clearly you have an understanding of how you need to work it. Then you can move on to your problem. It's like working out feeds and speeds. You don't wait till your last pass to figure out how fast you need to be feeding something, right? Work that crap out before you get to the last pass. If you're going to power feed on the last pass, or you need your surface finish, work it out before you get there. Don't wait till you got 10 thousandths left and you're on that last pass, and then, oh no, why in the world can't I get a good surface finish? Well, because your dumbass waited until the very last pass to try and figure this stuff out. And that's not the time to be figuring stuff like that out, right? Even when you know what the hell you're doing, even when you've calculated it and you've worked it all out on a calculator or a piece of paper, and in theory you've got it. Yeah, theory don't always work, right? That's why they're theories and not facts. And there's a lot of factors that go into things that you need to be aware of. Hell, sometimes you don't even need to be aware of the factors. You just need to be aware that there are going to be factors, and don't drag your feet until the last second to figure out what needs to be done. You know, if you're going to leave 10 for a finished pass, the pass before your finished pass or the pass before that, go over there and start playing with the feed until you get the finish that you want. That way, when you get on that last creep pass, you can just get in there and get it. You ain't gotta worry about scrapping that part because you didn't work the feed out. Same thing with the depth. Like on this, and I'll point out when we get there. You think you're to the you need 30 thousandths left to, okay, I'm just going to take the whole 30. You dial in 30, you drop down in there, you take a small cut, you pull back out, you measure that cut, and you make sure that you really are taking what you need to take and you're hitting the number. And in the case of this, we weren't. We dialed it in, we dropped it in. I dropped it in probably a 1/4 inch, pulled it back out, went in there and mic'd it, and we were born too big. Don't want to screw the pooch, right? So I readjusted and dropped back in, and I went, since I didn't have any, since I lost faith in how much it was actually taking when I dialed it in, I went below what I needed to be, and kind of snuck up on the number. If you've got faith in your machine, if you know your lathe's taking 20 when you dial 20, well then you just dial 20 and take it. But if you know your machines might take 25 when you dial in 20, well, you might want to keep that in mind when you're dialing in that 20, right? Not like screwing the pooch in the last hour, right? You're down to the nitty gritty. You're in the very last portion, and your overconfidence killed you. And I'm confident as a lion on a zebra's ass, right? I'm confident, but I'm the most confident, skeptical character you're ever gonna meet in your life. I ain't got faith in nothing. I only got faith in me. I ain't got faith in the tool. I ain't got faith in the damn thing. I got faith in me. Not because I know everything, because I can learn anything, right? I think we should all feel that way. But even with all that confidence, you still don't walk into a situation like a know-it-all or a dumbass. Because you might be confident in you, but you can't be confident in that tool. You can't be confident in no deflection. You can't be confident that it's actually the pitch on the screw is actually advancing the cutter as much as you think it's advancing that cutter, or the marks on your thing are telling you it's 20, maybe it ain't. So until you can build that confidence, until you got that relationship with whatever tool it is or equipment you're using, until you got that confidence in that tool, you need to be skeptical as hell. So right there is that's where I dropped in. Took me a small cut, and I'm going in and checking it to see where we're at. At least I'm pretty sure that's where we're at. And of course we're supposed to be on the number and we're not, so I'm going back in and checking it again to make sure everything's reading right, because I'm not getting anywhere near the number I'm expecting to see right now. And another thing you got to keep in mind is backlash in these screws, right? So let's say you're set on 30 and you got to go backwards, right, and come back up. Let's say you're trying to hit 30 and you accidentally go to 35. You're going to have to go backwards to 25 and then come back into the 30, and sometimes 25 ain't enough. It depends on how much slop you've got in that screw, right? And always take your measurements going in the same direction. Don't be taking 30 and then realize, I went too far, and then just bump the screw back, because now you don't really know where you're at because of that backlash. What's 30 in one direction is not going to be 30 in the other direction. And again on this, what should have been one pass to take the last of the meat, it just that's not the way it worked out. So I'm having to endangle the damn thing into size, I guess you could say. Should have just went in and took 20 or 30 on that last pass. I think it was 30. We come in there to take 30 and you're 10 oversized. So, or whatever it was. I'm just pulling numbers out my ass right now, but you know what I'm saying. And you can tell this is the finish pass, because I'm feeding in slow, and I'm going to feed out slow. And I usually oftentimes I use two hands. I'll have one kind of right in the center of the rotation. Kind of one fighting the other is more or less what I'm trying to say. Where one's pushing down, the other one's kind of tensioning against that one to keep it from just overpowering. And then also, since this is the finished pass, I don't want to just pull out. I guess I could bump well, man, you couldn't even bump the handle, because that's really going to fuck you up. If I shut it off, I could bump the handle and pull it up. But I'm just feeding back out the same way I fed in. Super slow. Make sure it's got a decent enough finish on it. You know, the tool's already crappy as hell, but another story, right? Yeah, I'm one of those, hog it until you get to the end, then slow down. I like to get the material out of there, get it out of there as quick as I can, and then take my time on the finished pass, or even the last few passes. You know, I'd rather take 20 minutes longer and get up on something than save 20 minutes and blow a part out because my dumb ass was speeding. And there we go. I guess that's I gotta go in and, you know, make sure that it's the right size, but looking at the time on this clock countdown, I reckon with only 1 minute left, it had to be the right size. And yeah, I could have moved the tool out the way better, but screw that. I can get in there as faster just to do this and try and come back to center every time. Like crank that knee up and down or whatever. And I've already got the quill locked, so I can just drop it down each time and bump against that stop. Alright, I reckon that's going to be the end of that.